To remember this tremendous success of SpaceX, we were really close to a moment where today we might just be looking at footage from the 70s, when people were lost on the moon, and some completely forgotten Elon Musk with its garbage company would lie in the dustbin of history. You asked, why isn't it so? Let's take a look at the very thrilling story of SpaceX together. Idea of the SpaceX company actually appeared outside of the USA. But before we say where and why, let's discover the circumstances that led to it. During the early months of 2001, Elon Musk made a donation of $100,000 to the Mars Society and briefly took a position on its board of directors. During the Society's fourth convention, he delivered a keynote speech where he introduced the concept of Mars Oasis. Never heard of it? Well, this ambitious project aimed to establish a greenhouse on Mars for cultivating plants. And when you want to build a greenhouse on Mars, you need to get there somehow, obviously. Therefore, Musk attempted to acquire a Dnieper, the Dnieper by NATO called SS-18 Satan, was basically a three-stage rocket developed by the Soviet Union and used by Russia. Musk traveled to Moscow to inspect the situation about these rockets. He found out that the Russian response for his interest was not what they expected. On their journey back, Musk proposed the idea of creating a company to manufacture the cost-effective rockets they required, by implementing vertical integration and utilizing affordable off-the-shelf components whenever feasible, along with adapting to modular practices of contemporary software engineering. Musk believed he could drastically reduce launch costs. So there you have it. The idea of SpaceX has been born somewhere in the sky over Russia. So what followed? After returning, Musk approached rocket engineer Tom Miller and proposed a partnership. Miller agreed to join Musk's endeavor, leading to the establishment of SpaceX. They needed to hire personnel, but for building rockets, you can't employ some Steve from your neighborhood. You need the best of the best. How did you find them? One of the aspects was the company's initial headquarters was established in the warehouse located in El Segundo in California. Why is that important? Well, it has shown up you can actually hire people from your neighborhood if your neighbors are companies such as TRWV or Boeing, masters of aerospace basically. They convinced tens of people to join them from these companies. But there is a second important aspect of how to choose from all the candidates. Well, you have to examine them. There are some juicy stories about recruiting employees. Musk personally conducted interviews with applicants and endorsed each of SpaceX's initial staff members, and he assigned very unusual tasks. For example, you are standing on the surface of the Earth. You walk 1 mile south, 1 mile west, and 1 mile north. You end up exactly where you started. Where are you? Or there is a school bus parked outside. Approximately how many golf balls would fit inside it? Do you think you can answer those questions and get a job? Write in the comments and try to apply. If not, well, from tens of employees there are already around 12,000 workers, so try it as well. There is a high chance you don't have to face Elon Musk's tasks personally. With SpaceX established, Musk has voiced his objective for SpaceX to substantially reduce the expense and enhance the dependability of space access. with an ultimate goal of achieving a tenfold improvement. You think this was a good idea and they made a smooth ride to nowadays successes? You will see you are totally wrong. SpaceX took a big challenge. They built their first rocket for going into space, the Falcon 1. They used their own money to do it. The Falcon 1 had two parts and was meant to carry things into space. It cost around $90 to $100 million to make. They named it Falcon to show respect for a secret project called DARPA Falcon, which was part of the US military's prompt global strike plan. In 2005, SpaceX said they would work on a space program for people. They wanted to do this until the end of the 10 years. This program later became the Dragon spacecraft. A year later, NASA gave SpaceX a lot of money, almost $400 million, to help them show that they could take people and supplies to the International Space Station. In a smart move, the US Department of Defense bought the first two Falcon 1 launches. They wanted to see if these rockets were good, of course, for military purposes and if their money were spent wisely. But there came problems. The first launch.
3, 2, 1, 0, plus 1,
8, plus 9, 1 up, plus 10.
The second launch, and the third launch. The first three launches of the rocket between 2006 and 2008 all resulted in failures which almost ended the company. As well, financing for Tesla Motors had failed. Tesla, SolarCity, and even Musk personally were all nearly bankrupt at the same time. Musk were reportedly waking from nightmares, screaming, and in physical pain because of the stress. But then, the fourth launch.
3, 2, 1, 0.
We're at stage
We have
1.
liftoff indication. We have liftoff. SpaceX Falcon 1 launch vehicle. Falcon has cleared the tower. Plus 12.
pitch kick.
Looks like stage stable. Eco.
Stage separation confirmed.
Confirmed.
Things have changed. On the
9
fourth
minutes, 30
try
seconds.
on September
Second stage
28,
approaching
2008, the Falcon 1 launch succeeded. Elon Musk gave the last $30 million he had to SpaceX and Tesla. NASA helped too by giving SpaceX a contract worth $1.6 billion in December. This helped save SpaceX from money problems. Because of these good things and new opportunities, SpaceX decided to stop using the Falcon 1 after the fifth successful launch in July 2009 and let them focus on making a bigger rocket called the Falcon 9. Around this time, a new leading face was discovered. Gwynne Shotwell became a big leader in the company because she did a great job making deals. Elon Musk wanted to convince another star to join his team, Michael D. Griffin, an American physicist and space engineer, an important figure in NASA, where he led programs such as CRS and COTS, programs for pushing private companies to develop machines able to supply International Space Station, taking satellites into orbit and so on. He refused, but became really important in SpaceX history by bringing them many contracts. Therefore, money. SpaceX initially planned to follow up its smaller Falcon 1 rocket with a middle-sized one, the Falcon 5. However, in 2005, the company changed course and decided to focus on creating a bigger and reusable rocket called the Falcon 9. This decision was influenced by NASA's interest. NASA agreed to buy flights from SpaceX if they could show specific abilities. NASA started funding this in 2006 through mentioned COTC. It means the Commercial Orbital Transportation Services program, which actually was about bringing supplies to ISS, as I mentioned. The total funding from NASA was almost $300 million. This money was for developing the Dragon spacecraft, Falcon 9, and showing how Falcon 9 could launch with Dragon attached. In June 2010, Falcon 9 had its first launch with a model of the Dragon spacecraft, not the real one. They achieved. But then...
3, 2, 1, 0. We have liftoff of the Falcon 9. Stay tuned. Pitch kick. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
First stage MECO 2.
In December 2010, the first real Dragon spacecraft was sent on a mission aboard the second Falcon 9 flight. Real Dragon spacecraft and Falcon 9 achieved. It completed its mission by safely coming back to Earth after going around it twice. By December 2010, SpaceX was making one Falcon 9 and Dragon every 3 months. The USA once again had hope for new, American-owned spacecraft able to bring people into space. Between 2011 and 2012, NASA gave SpaceX a fixed-price agreement to design the transportation and escape system for carrying people to the ISS. By early 2012, Elon Musk owned about 2/3 of SpaceX stocks. His shares were worth around $875 million on private markets, which made SpaceX overall worth around $1.3 billion. At that time, his another company, Tesla Motors, joined the market with the magnificent price of $1 per stock. The private investors and retail joined the party. At this time, one of the most expected moments of SpaceX history emerged. In May 2012, the Dragon C2 Plus launched. This was the first commercial spacecraft to take things to the ISS. As a response, SpaceX valuation nearly doubled to $2.4 billion, or $20 for each share. The SpaceX, the privately owned company, has now become a legend on the space field, as well as Elon Musk. And there was another revolutionary thing. In late 2012, SpaceX started testing reusability. They checked how the rocket's landing technology worked at low altitudes and low speeds. They even tried landing the Falcon 9 prototypes vertically. Later, in late 2013, they moved on to testing the technology for landing at high speeds and high altitudes. But before landing experiments, let's move to another successes. In 2013, SpaceX accomplished a remarkable feat by launching the first mission for a private customer in the commercial space industry. The following year, in 2014, SpaceX emerged victorious in securing 9 contracts out of a total of 20 worldwide contracts that were up for open competition. Why were they so successful? I'll give you an example. There was a company called United Launch Alliance, and they were interested in taking all military payloads to space. Because of lack of competition, they skyrocketed their prices. They had a huge monopoly. But when SpaceX occurred, their capabilities and pricings completely disrupted the market. Capitalism won, and so did SpaceX. At this time, another ambitious project was announced: the creation of a novel satellite network known as Starlink. The objective was to offer global broadband internet service using a constellation of 4,000 satellites. But before Starlink, let me remind you, it still wasn't easy to develop rockets. The journey brought many challenges. For example, in late June 2015, the Falcon 9 experienced a major setback. During the 7th resupply mission to the International Space Station, known as CRS-7, the rocket exploded merely 2 minutes after liftoff. The investigation revealed that the issue originated from a failed 2-foot-long steel component called a strut, which was meant to secure a helium pressure vessel. The force of acceleration caused this component to break loose, resulting in a breach and the escape of high-pressure helium into a low-pressure propellant tank. This catastrophic chain of events led to the mission's failure. Something similar happened in September 2016. The explosion of the Falcon 9 rocket caused the destruction of the Amos 6 communication satellite with a valuation of $200 million. SpaceX had to pause their supply missions because of investigation for a few months before they continued. SpaceX first achieved a successful landing and recovery of a first stage in December 2015 with Falcon 9 Flight 20. In April 2016, the company achieved the first successful landing on the Autonomous Spaceport drone ship, in short ASDS, called Of Course I Still Love You. That is the name of the ship, in the Atlantic Ocean. By October 2016, following the successful landings, SpaceX indicated that they were offering their customers 10% reduction in prices for customers who would choose to launch their payloads using a previously used Falcon 9 first stage. In the same year, March 2017 witnessed another historic achievement as SpaceX successfully launched a Falcon 9 rocket that had already been used for a previous mission. This mission carried the SES-10 satellite. This marked the very first instance of relaunching a payload-bearing orbital rocket back into space. Impressively, the first stage of the rocket was once again retrieved after the mission, making it the pioneering landing of a reused rocket in the orbital class. SpaceX did it. Thanks to reusable parts, they were able to rapidly reduce the cost of flights and become a leader in the field of space supply. They fulfilled the goal they set themselves by founding the company. The company's overall value skyrocketed as quickly as another Musk's company, Tesla. Do you remember I mentioned the value in 2012 was $2 billion? In July 2017 it was already $21 billion. Talking about Tesla cars, a project involving both companies appeared. You may remember. Wait for it. During the same year, SpaceX achieved a considerable 45% share of the global market for awarded commercial launch contracts. In 2018, SpaceX had over 100 upcoming launches listed in their plans, one every 3 days. Back to the project.
Terminal count. 10, 9, 8.
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Falcon Heavy.
Side booster shutdown and separation.
Inside shutdown. Side boosters. Vehicle.
You may remember the famous flight with Tesla Roadster, one of the most original marketing moves in history, bringing both Musk's companies a huge fanbase all around the world. We are going to talk about their biggest challenges and projects developed nowadays, so pause the video, smash the like button, write in the comments what you think are the answers for those job interviews tasks. Click on the sub button, make some tea or coffee, and let's continue. What is happening nowadays? In January 2009, SpaceX revealed plans to cut 10% of its workforce to fund the ambitious Starship and Starlink projects. The initial prototypes and tests for the Starship began in early 2019, as well as launch of the first batch of 60 Starlink satellites, marking the start of deploying the world's largest commercial satellite network the following year. Throughout previous successes, the company's valuation rose in the last 2 years over another 60%. A significant breakthrough occurred in May 2020. SpaceX effectively sent NASA astronauts Todd Hurley and Bob Behnken into orbit using the Crew Dragon spacecraft. It was for the first time a private company had transported astronauts to the International Space Station, signifying the first crewed orbital launch from American soil in nearly a decade. The company's price rose to $46 billion, about 50% from last year, making it one of the most well-funded private companies. In 2021, SpaceX value had further surged about 200% year to year to more than $100 billion. With huge growth came new goals. In April 2021, Starship HLS was awarded a significant contract solidifying its crucial role in Artemis program. What is it? The Artemis program is a robotic and human moon exploration program led by the United States and is intended to reestablish a human presence on the moon for the first time since the Apollo 17 mission in 1972. What it means? SpaceX, the private company founded 20 years ago, is highly probably going to be the one who takes us again to the moon. And then, who knows, to Mars? And then a Starlink, project for an internet network we may have dreamed of 10 years ago. Thanks to Starlink, SpaceX became even a key player in politics. The support which this internet system brings to Ukrainians in the Ukrainian-Russian war is irreplaceable. The year 2022 also witnessed a remarkable achievement as SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket set a world record for the most launches of a single vehicle type in a year, with a total of 61 launches, almost one launch every 6 days. Out of these, 60 were carried out by Falcon 9 rockets, with only one launch conducted by a Falcon Heavy rocket in November. In April 2023, Starship's inaugural orbital flight test concluded in a mid-air explosion over the Gulf of Mexico before booster separation. The rocket experienced engine failures and control loss, leading to its intentional destruction using the automated flight termination system. Despite this, Elon Musk and SpaceX declared this test flight a success. And there we are, today. From humble beginnings and the edge of bankruptcy, 20 years later, SpaceX became the global leader in the cosmic industry and a well-run company growing significantly every year and making space travel in the near future much more sustainable. Thanks to that, we can keep our hopes to see in our lifetime people walking on the moon or even Mars still alive.